Welcome back to another project on Kim Dave. In this video, I'm going to be taking you guys through the journey of creating a corset. This design was inspired by the look that Taylor Swift wore for the 2025 Grammys. So I'm going to be taking you through the process of creating the sewing patterns, sharing how I draped the gorgeous neckline on the mannequin, and it's going to be a two-part project. So this one is all about the corset making in terms of the pattern, and then in the second video I'm going to be taking you guys through the cutting and the sewing of this design. So if you'd like to see how I made this, make sure to keep on watching. This video is sponsored by Skillshare, but more about them in a moment. I'm starting off today's video in the car because I've come out to get some fabrics. The plan for this video is to attempt to recreate the outfit or the gown that Taylor Swift wore for the 2025 Grammys. Vivienne Westwood gown, corset, beautiful bodice, red shimmery lace. I don't think I'm going to do the full garment. I think I'm just going to try and do the top half. It's a very interesting neckline. So the plan is to go into the shops, grab. Yes, Maria is approving of the design and of this video. And the plan is to go in, grab some material, red lining, and then boning. Yes, let's try see if we can find these in the shops today. So come along and I hope you enjoyed this video. Okay, I'm in the fabric aisle. The reference image is this kind of sparkly, shimmery red material. It looks like a type of sequence, so I'm gonna see if I can find something similar. This one seems pretty promising. I'm not a fan of working with sequins, if I'm being honest, because it kind of just bursts into, like, these flakes fall off pretty easily and they can litter my workspace. So I'm not a fan of working with sequins, but if there's nothing else, I think I might work with either this one or this one at the back. Comes in gold as well. If you're wondering where I am in Hobbycraft, and they have a whole section with like fabrics, materials, and like sewing bits. So let's see what else I can find here. Other option that could work is this one, but the dress is a lot more sparkly, whereas this looks like a red type of satin. This seems to be the only viable option here. There's a bit of stretch in there, so I just have to be mindful when I'm creating the pattern for this. Secure the fabric. I'm going to go hunt for zip and then boning for the boning tunnels. The plan is to have the boning tunnels on the lining and then not see any boning tunnels on the right side of the garment. So there is structure, there is definition, but it's on the lining, kind of like what I did for the prom project I did, I think 2 or 3 years ago. So let's go find zips, let's go find boning. She is so cute.
Wow, look at all the zips.
Is Maria gonna choose the zip for us?
I want this.
So I'm gonna scrap the zip, and I'm just going to have lace up on the back of the corset. So I'm gonna look for like a nice red cord. I have the gold eyelets I think would work really well with this. I'm going to find a red cord I can use for the lace up on the back. I have lining at home, so I'm just going to get the material, lace cord, and moving on to making the patterns next. I decided to get a red ribbon. I'm just gonna get like 1.5 meters of this. Use this for the lace up on the back of the corset, and then about 1.5 meters of this for the actual piece and for the draping around the shoulder. I have lining at home, thread at home, eyelets at home. So let's get this and crack on with the project. So those are all of the measurements I'm going to use to create a corset. And for the corset patterns, I could actually create this on Clo, which is a software I've been enjoying recently. I'm fairly new to it, and one place I know I can definitely learn more in terms of 3D fashion and 3D modeling is on Skillshare, who are the sponsors of today's video. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives with thousands of classes led by industry experts across film, illustration, fashion, design, business, entrepreneurship. Skillshare can help take your career, skill, hobby, passion, or side hustle to the next level. I'm currently taking a class sharing how to create a corset on Clo 3D, and she's using the pen tool, which is a tool I've never used. So I'm actually glued onto that class, learning how to use the pen tool to draw onto your avatar and have an outcome at the end. This outcome would become a PDF pattern that I could print and use at home, either for myself or for my business. And this is one of the things that Skillshare makes possible. There's also an amazing feature called Learning Paths, and what Learning Path basically is a curated collection of classes designed to help learners achieve specific skills or career goals. For example, if you're someone who wants to start a YouTube channel but you don't know what to start with, what tools to possibly explore, there is a learning path for that. So it teaches you how to speak in front of the camera. It also shows you how to plan your content, marketing your content. So if you follow that learning path from the beginning till the end, at the end you become a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident starting your channel or growing your channel. Now this is one of many learning paths that you could explore on Skillshare. The first 500 people to use my link in the description down below will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare to get started today. So thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. You could also create the sewing patterns for this corset using your body measurements, and I'm going to be sharing that in the next portion of this video. Shall we take a closer look at the corset design? It has a corset bodice, as you can see here, and a draped neckline. This I think was draped straight onto Taylor's body or on a mannequin, but my plan is to actually make the corset separate from the draping detail, so that way it is kind of easier to achieve. I'm starting off here with the front plan, and I'm drawing a short horizontal line. This is going to become my neckline, and then I'm marking 3 inches below that 3-inch point to become my bust line, and then 3 inches below the bust line is going to become my under bust. So work with your measurements or that of your clients to achieve the best fit. I'm squaring this point across, which essentially means I'm drawing a horizontal line that cuts through those points. So the one on top is the neckline, the second one is the bust line, and then the third one is the under bust. Once I have these points marked, I'm going to go to the neckline and mark half of my across chest measurement. Mine is 7 inches. And then I'm going to go on to the bust line and mark a quarter of my bust measurement, which essentially means dividing my bust measurement by 4. And then I'm going to my under bust and marking a quarter of my bust under bust measurement on that third line, and I'm going to be connecting these points like so. And the shape of the neckline kind of goes high on the side and then dips low towards the middle of the center front edge, but I'll be shaping that later on. Next, I'm marking the vertical distance from my bust to my waist. Mine is 6 inches, and my desired corset length is about 17 inches. You can make yours higher or shorter if you would like. I'm going to go in to draw in my waistline because that's going to help me to really divide the front panels for this corset. And then I'm going to be drawing in the hemline. The hemline you can leave as a straight hemline, but I'm going to be shaping mine to be a little bit more rounded on the sides. Now moving on to the waistline, I'm marking a quarter of my waist measurement plus 1 inch along my waist, and then along the hemline I'm marking the around hem measurement or your hip measurement. Divide that by 4, and then I mark that along that line. I'm going to connect that back to my under bust line, so I have an entire side seam ready to work with. As I mentioned earlier on, I'm going to be reshaping the hem and the neckline to achieve the desired effect. And for the hemline, I want it to be raised by 1 inch on the side and curve back down to the center front edge, so it's kind of like scoops up the side and then is straight-ish along the front. The neckline is like a very deep scoop neckline. I think that's the best way to describe it. So we're going to be doing that here. The first thing I'm doing is marking 1.25 inches below my original neckline I drew, and then I'm going to be drawing a scoop neckline that goes back onto the side. However, I'm going to be lifting the edge by about 1/2 inch, so it's just a little bit exaggerated, and that connects back to the scoop that I drew earlier on. Just know that the higher it goes on the side, the more dramatic that scoop is going to be on the center front edge. So this I'm going to connect back to my side seam so I have the neckline drawn in place. I'm going to go to my bust line next and mark half of my nipple to nipple measurement. This is going to help me divide my front plan. With corsets, it's all about your panels, it's all about your division, and mine is going to be 3 panels on the front. So this is my first dividing point, which is the nipple point. Now, I want to shape in that neckline just a little bit more, so I'm marking 1/2 inch on both sides of that nipple line, and I'm going to be drawing that back onto my bust point. For these 2 lines to connect, I'm going to ensure that whatever I measure on that outer line is the same height as the one on this inner line I'm drawing here. So just measure that, and if you need to add like an extra 1/2 centimeter or centimeter on top, it really helps you when you cut your pattern onto fabric and stitch. You find that things will connect a lot better along the edges. Now that I have that done, I'm going to my waistline and I'm marking 1/2 inch on both sides of that nipple line that we drew, and this is going to help me shape my panels. I'm going to my bust point and I'm marking 1 inch below that because I want to have that place kind of preserved and not have it eaten away when I'm shaping in my corset here. So I'm connecting that 1 inch drop to my waist dart like so, curving in around my bust point. Rather than have it as a point, I want it to be a curved edge, and it's going to be connected so it looks like this. So this is what the top edge is looking like, and I'm just going to draw in the bottom edge of that my waist dart so it goes from the waist all the way to the hem in a traditional looking dart shape. And with this, I have my middle front panel done and a side panel. You can work with yours like this, but I knew I wanted an additional boning tunnel on the side, so I'm going to be dividing the second panel into 2. Just to guide me, the top edge is about 2 inches away from the edge of the neckline and 2 inches away from the bottom of the dart on the hemline, and I'm just going to draw in a slant like this, and with that slant I'm going to end up with 3 panels for my front corset plan. The next step will be to trace off each individual panel as separate pattern pieces and add seam allowance around them, so when it's cut onto fabric you actually have panels ready to be connected together and sculpted onto the body. So I'm just tracing off the panels onto new pattern paper, adding seam allowance all around the patterns, adding my grain line and annotations, and this is what the first pattern piece looks like. I want a seam on my center front edge because I plan to put a boning there as well, so I have proper support and structure. And then I have the kind of middle side piece as well as the outer or the third panel for my front. So these are the front pattern pieces. I'm going to be cutting 2 of each of my lining and then my main sequence fabric. For the back, I'm going to be working with the same plan, and the first thing I'm doing here is marking 2 inches inwards from my center front edge, and this is going to become the center back edge of my back corset. I do this because it saves me paper and time, but you can create a fresh pattern if you wanted in terms of your plan. For my back neckline, I am marking 1 inch below my bust line because I want the neckline to scoop down from the side all the way to the center back edge rather than have it as a straight line. Now for my back panels, I'm going to be finding the middle point on my waistline, and at that middle point I am going to be marking my dart. So I'm going to be ignoring the dart that I did from my front plan and move that dart a little bit inward so it sits right in the middle of my back plan, and it's going to be a 1 inch dart in total, so 1/2 inch on both sides. And this tapers in towards the hem of my back corset, and then along the neckline I am marking about 1/2 inch along the neckline like so, and that I'm going to be connecting to the dart so it helps me to have a clear division and I have 2 panels for my back pattern pieces. So once those are drawn in place, I won't be using that middle section that I'm crossing out now. I'm essentially just going to trace off the piece on the middle edge and then the piece on the side. So I have 2 pattern pieces for my back. I'm going to add seam allowance all the way around that. Transfer notches are important. Add grain lines because that would really guide me when it's time to cut and join everything together. When you work with corsets, there are lots of pieces. The pieces get plenty very quickly, especially if you really want to have a corset with a lot of panels, with a lot of structure. So it's important to number your panels. It's important to add notches as well, so you can differentiate front from back pieces. So this is my first back pattern piece, one that kind of sits on the middle of the back. And I'm going to need to cut 2, one for the left and one for the right. And I forgot to add a notch here, so I'm just doing that real quick so I can tell that this is the one that sits on the center back edge. And then I'm going to have another back piece that sits on the side. This is one that will connect to the side seam of the front, and this I'll need to cut 2 off, one for the left and one for the right. The final pattern piece I'm going to need is the one for the modesty panel. This is optional, but these days I've been enjoying modesty panels, and I'm just tracing off the center back edge like so. Mine ended up being about 12 inches tall, and in terms of width it is 7 inches wide. So this panel typically would sit right on the center back edge, so you don't see my skin when I have the corset on. However, you could just skip this if you want to style this corset with maybe a shirt underneath, or you don't mind having your skin on show. The choice is yours. So I'm just going in here to draw in the full shape of my modesty panel, which is essentially like a rectangular shape. Add my seam allowance around that, add grain lines and annotations. And typically you would fuse this so it has a little bit of structure or body, so it sits nice and straight on the inside of your corset at the back. So that's the final pattern piece I'm going to be creating for this project, and those are all the pattern pieces I need to make this corset design. My plan is to use this pattern to cut onto my fabric, stitch it all together, add my boning tunnels to my lining. However, the neckline I'm going to be draping straight onto my mannequin, so make sure to watch out for part 2 of this project, where I'm going to be showing you guys how I cut this piece, stitch everything together, and show you the final outcome at the end. If you're excited for the next part of this project, give this video a thumbs up and let me know in the comment section down below that you guys can't wait to see it. Until next time, have a good morning, afternoon and evening wherever you are. Bye.